Hello, hello, and welcome back to. I'm gonna sneeze. Quality content. Welcome back to Tears of the Kingdom 100 years later. Um, Let me know if the volume sounds okay. I've gotten some comments in the past that the music in the background was a little loud in previous videos, so I've made it a bit quieter for this time around. Hopefully it sounds okay. But for those who are new here, to recap, this is me working on a hypothetical sequel to Tears of the Kingdom that I may turn into a tabletop campaign to play with my friends later on, set 100 years after the end of the game, following, the set 100 years later after Hyrule has rebuilt and, all of that, with the primary conflict being about the, newly burgeoning Yiga, Yiga Hylian War. Oh, your other recording. Yes, everybody go watch Sheebs. Sheebs started streaming again because their equipment's all fixed. It's not a big deal if people could hear that stuff. Excuse me, sorry, I'm gonna try and not be too sniffly. But yes, so last time, so we've got all of this set up as the current map, the yellow marking where I believe infrastructure will be built up more. I've expanded the map slightly based off what we can see beyond the boundaries, assuming that the Gerudos would have expanded. And the red lines indicate where Yiga territory is. And a big part of that, of why that's where the Yiga territory is cause... the underground that we were working on last time. I don't really worry about keyboard being audible. I think most people don't care, and most people don't even realize when they're hearing the keyboard in videos. Give me a moment. Oh, also I'm gonna throw back out the request I've thrown in all previous ones. The map I have right now is very low quality because it's surprisingly hard to find a big, nice quality map of Tears of the Kingdom's map, especially one for the underground. So if anybody has something, I would super appreciate it being thrown at me, because I need a higher quality map if I'm gonna make this look really nice. Alright, God, Sniffles, stop. I'm getting up my virtual map on the side to help me out. Why won't they let me go into the underground map? What is happening? There we go. Sorry, I'm just, fidgeting with my side map that's on my other monitor that you can't see that I'm using to help guide me. Come on, activate all Prox locations for me, please. Activate all Yiga base locations. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, we've gotten about halfway through fleshing out our concept for the underground map. With the yellow marking where the Hylians have pushed underground in this war, the red marking the territory of the Yiga, and green marking wildlands. Excuse me, I'm all sniffly. With me having a little bit of a lore explanation of, hang on. Just checking something. Yeah, a lore explanation in my head being that the, excuse me. The words. That the reason the underground is as dead as it was is because of the gloom spread by Ganon and the gloom roots choking out all life. In the 100 years since his absence, verdant jungles and wildlife have spurned up all over Hyrule, or all over the underground, I should say. And so, yeah, we've shown off, and in my head, The area directly underneath the Gerudo lands is the primary, like, base of operations of the Yiga in the underground, because it's where they've gotten the strongest foothold. Although even then, the wildlife coming back has posed an issue for them. And they've done something, and, you know, there's also areas where the Hylians are pushing down, with them using the Great Plateau as a staging ground, and this wild area here, holding has sort of a barrier between the two factions. The Yiga have begun to dig out tunnels and sections of the underground right here in order to help them fuel their camps and their territorial claims. The arenas are being used by them as places of, like, testing their new soldiers out, and they've started to reactivate all of the underground mines to start mining zonite to help them with their projects. And even where there's wild zones, they've managed to keep a hold of different camps. I made sure to pay close attention to what type of camp the Yiga camps were, because there's multiple different kinds, and certain kinds were easier for them to expand than others in my ideas. They've also decided anywhere where there was a battle platform where bosses would spawn, I've turned those areas as being treated as wild zones where the Yiga can't expand into, because even now, so I like to interpret it as those aren't spawning in Ganon's minions in the game. These are magical platforms that were put here by the Zonai long ago that spawn in challenges for the hero. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh my god, why am I so sneezy? Give me a moment. Sorry, I just muted my mic while I blew my nose, because nobody wants to hear that. But yeah, so that's sort of some of the ideas going into this. Like I said, potentially this is going to become the basis for a campaign. Oh, also, I've interpreted this wall here as being something the Yiga can't really cross, except for they can go around it here, and they built it up and over platform here because this is one of their largest settlements in the north. And over here, the wildlands are stopping them from just going around the northern section. Also, the area under Hyrule Castle has flooded since the 100 years ago. So this time, I want to go and start touching around the Death Mountain region, which is going to be an interesting area because, in my canon, the Gorons have moved back into the underground and are living down underground. Now, I think this arena here, early on I was thinking that it was going to be reclaimed by the Gorons, but now I think it's a fun idea to say it hasn't yet, and it's a Yiga holdout in Goron territory. So they're not really getting much communication with the arena that's here, because there's an arena there. I know it's a little hard to see it under the yellow. They're trying to get help from their allies, the Yiga, but they're having a hard time because the Gorons have more or less surrounded them, you know? So, like, there will be a whole quest where the Gorons have you go in and clean out the Yiga, and then if you leave and come back after a while, the Gorons will have claimed the arena, and I'm thinking, like, the descendants of the Gut Check Rock Gorons are now down there giving new test of strength. Yeah, this is, like, probably the area where the Yiga have the worst foothold, and there's been the most territorial claim by the Hylians and the Gorons. There's gonna be a wild section right here, because that's an area where one of the big frogs lives. I'm using the place where frogs spawn has a major tell location of where the wild zones will be. In addition, anywhere on the map that is marked as a grove, I'm turning into wildland. And I'm actually thinking, yeah, of course, it would make sense that everything underneath here would be turned into wildland. Because, you know, it's the fucking Hyrule Forest. But there's still going to be a little Yiga outpost because they're trying to hold on to every single arena still. There's nothing really going on in this stretch of land below here, so I'll probably try and turn this into a Yiga base. And on the topic of Yiga bases, of course, the Yiga have carved out little bits of land in some of these areas. I like to think they use these tunnels to avoid too much of the wilderness, of the Minish wilderness, and have like sort of filled out that area a little bit. So yeah, they've tunneled through these areas. To help them get their stuff around. Let's go down to the Underworld section. Not the Underworld, we want... I didn't accidentally... Good. What was I... What layer did I use for... What layer did I... Oh, map changes. There we go. Yep, that's right. That's specifically a map changes layer. Yeah, so there's a tunnel dug out here. And a tunnel dug out here. And what these pose as a major threat, if we go to the upper layer... if we look at the overworld, those lie... Ooh, let's turn off... let's make this all a little bit more visible. Turn off the 10 and 50-year layers. Yeah. The Yiga are like popping up through the crevices that are underneath here. Not heavily, but this is how they're spying on Hyrule's capital. These tunnels have sort of been forgotten in everything that's gone on since the cleanup effort. My coffee's gone and I'm sad. Yee. Now let's... Yeah, so these are like major encampments for the Yiga. Although I say that, both of these have a frog in them. And I think that's going to serve as a big benefit to the Hylians in that it's something that is actively preventing them from utilizing these zones as well as they could have. So that they still are managing to sneak the occasional spy out through these wild areas, but these things have been fully filled in as wild zones that they're digging into and desperately trying to make use of. Oops. Let's skip this part of the soundtrack. Alright. Continue to look at map. Alright, let's look around a little bit above. The interesting thing is there's not a lot going on around the Death Mountain region in general. What is going on there? Is that... That's not a battle arena area, is it? What was happening in that area in the base game? I don't remember. Was there an enemy in there that I'm forgetting existed? Nothing on my special map here is showing that area as actually having had anything significant. That's underneath Gut Check Rock, right? Yeah. Oh. Oh, hey, Doodlesar. I don't remember what was in that area. I know there was something crazy going on in there in the base game of Tears of the Kingdom. Oh well. I'm sure somebody who has ready access to the game could remind me at some point in the comments on the YouTube upload. Alright, so there is a Yiga base located up here. Let's add to the Yiga layer. That's obviously the base that they use to reach up around and need to climb out through the skull area. And then right below that is a grove. So, wild layer. Boop, boop. Little grove right here. And then this lake has a Yiga encampment. I'm going to extrapolate that to them having turned the entirety of this lake bed into their camp. And you know, I was on the fence last time if I wanted to make this Yiga camp. And I think I am going to make it a Yiga camp. I've changed my mind yet again. Before I said, no, it's not gonna, now I'm saying, yes, it is gonna be. Because I want them to have dug out a tunnel over the 100 years. And there'll be, like loads of journal entries of them talking about what a grueling effort this dig has been and how worth it it's gonna be. And then they broke through and got attacked by whatever this game's equivalent of the Guardians would be. So maybe I'll double back on my thought again later on. But either way, I want to, because a big part of what I want to do here is make the entire underground actually interconnected. So like you can go into the depths and seamlessly traverse the entirety of Hyrule, you know. All right. And of course, they would have roads running up through here. Of course, the Yigawell have claimed this entire circular area as theirs. Only makes sense to me since I'm having them reactivate all of the mines in their name. Although right underneath here, it's a bit... Wow, if you jump down that hole, you fall directly into the gullet of a frog. That's funny. So let's... Swap. That obviously creates traversal issues for the Yiga. But I do want to make that, even though the Hylians are going to be struggling too because of that being a wild zone, I want the Hylian Zonai research team to have managed to reach up to the Spring of Power over here. Through concerted effort. I kind of think I want to have as many of the well springs be their control as possible. Although, is that... No, that's just a Cliff Bargainer statue. Where was the last wellspring? We haven't gone over the last wellspring location, that's right. Yeah, I think I'm going to want the Hylians to be controlling the 3 wellsprings, and I feel like that would be a fun quest line to have something to do with them. Go to the Yiga layer. They will have claimed the Terrytown mine. I'll think more about how I'm connecting some of these areas in a bit. Let's double back and look at this area over here real fast. There's another frog located here. So that's more expansion to our wild territory. There's a Yiga base located right over here. No other areas labeled as grove, but just looking at the map and how many trees are present... Oops. I do want to expand this wild zone out like this a little bit. Just make it a little bit bigger. Because there's a bit of a dense spot of trees there. There's a Yiga camp right up here. I want to avoid dipping down past the Linero River area for the moment. There's a canyon mine here, and of course we're labeling the canyon mines as Yiga territory, so the Yiga are controlling all of this all the way up to this camp they have up here. And of course, they're also connecting to here, which is great because the whole up is over up here. So they will have dug through to here and like followed the little island chain situation. Yeah, I like that. So there's another tunnel the Yiga dug. There's a frog located over here. So this whole strip is going to be more wildland because of that frog's presence. And I think, looking at the shape of the terrain on the more detailed map I have on the side, I think this is going to be another major, like, Yiga encampment that runs all along like this. And they sort of snake along up here to connect with their other camps over here. Okay. Let's look a little bit at the big picture and think of how we might want to expand things. I think that this wild zone here, I want to connect these through this narrow tunnel, so... Hang on. Yeah. These are going to be connected. And I want to make this whole wild zone wrap around like this. And that wild zone is sort of stopping a little bit of the Goron expansion. But at the same time, the Goron expansion, I'm going to make spread a little further south. Through all of this. Yeah, with the Gorons claiming basically right up to the edge of a lot of these wild zone areas. That's the area below Gutcheck Rock. Hang on. You know what? I'm gonna Google this. Where'd I put my phone down? There it is. Come on. No, don't. Shut up, phone. Close. I hate that. I didn't even have YouTube open last time I opened my phone. The YouTube app has been pissing me off lately now that I have the picture-in-picture thing enabled. Because even when I haven't been watching YouTube, I will unlock my phone and it will start auto-playing random YouTube videos. And my phone also got a new update, so that my lock screen, instead of giving me notifications of what I've been seeing, is just giving me a fucking news feed. I hate technology. What is underneath Gutcheck Rock in Tears of the Kingdom? What is in the underground under Gutcheck Rock in Tears of the Kingdom? Treasure chest, some ores, and a Korok seed. Yeah? No, that's talking about what's on the surface. I want to know what's under it. Fuck. In the underground section underneath Gut Check Rock and Tears of the Kingdom, is there anything to be found? Oh, you know what? Hang on. I think if I turn on, I think I know a filter I can turn on that will tell me something. Is there a Gleeok down there? No. What is in that area? I don't have my Tears of the Kingdom copy on hand to look there myself. So, I don't know what's there. So in the meantime, I'm just going to go ahead and say that's Goron territory. But I'm willing to change my mind later on if that doesn't make sense because of what is found there. And this is another area where Gorons and Yiga are directly clashing. Oh, I missed a little zone right here, the ancient underground fortress. I forgot that existed. I mean, yeah, the Yiga have 100% taken control of the ancient underground fortress. No fucking question there. So, like, this is an area where the Hylians are touching down, but it's also at the same time... Oh, you know what? Actually, hang on. I just had the thought of... I think it would genuinely be fun. Hang on. These are more boss spawn circles, aren't they? They're not flagging up all the boss platforms on here for me correctly. Yeah, shit. I may have missed several flux construct locations in the underground previously. Give me a second. That's what that circle is. That's a flux construct spot. Shit, hang on. Oh, shit. Okay, I've already marked that area where there's one has a wild zone. That's good. I didn't have flux constructs highlighted, and I should have. Because that's going to show me more areas that I think I can logically get away with turning into wild zones. Luckily, it looks like there's not actually a pretty huge amount of flux constructs around the map. This is a flux construct zone. And I can use that as justification to whop, 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 whop all of that together as one big wild zone. And you take that into the Yiga territory to weaken Yiga control in the canyon here. Cool, cool. That basically fucks up their travel routes. Haha. I like getting the wild zones expanded like this. Oh, this circle that I highlighted is actually a flux construct zone, not the place where you fight the big boss guy. So hang on, you know what? Bada bing, bada boom. This wild zone just grew massively. Let's even go so far as to do it like that. And then erase more Yiga control. Because I think the platforms of the flux constructs are, again, similar to what I was saying before with the other stuff. They're just going to have some shit going on in them that holds the Yiga back. What that shit is, I haven't decided yet. Excluding the constructs that are normally in the mazes. I'm treating those ones as canonically being defeated by Link. A flux construct can be fought right here. So that expands that wild zone out a bunch more. There's a flux construct up here. Oh, and just like that, we've significantly eaten into Yiga territory. Ooh. I still think they're going to have a road that goes through here. I'm just going to move where that road is located. Alright. Luckily, a lot of the areas where flux constructs are located, I've already filled in a whole bunch. Alright, and I think this wild zone sort of spills out here. And yeah, now all of a sudden this wild zone is creating another buffer zone between the Yiga and the Gorons. And I think that is probably a thing that has significantly helped the Yiga to survive, is the wild zones creating buffer zones for them. Yeah, these wild zones directly prevent their enemies from being able to go against them. So, as much as it hindered their expansion, it has also in a large part been a major boon to them in holding back their enemies. That's a monster camp, not a Yiga camp. Okay. Oh, you know, is there a way to mark where the Zonite deposits on the map? So I can use that as well as a guide for things. Yeah, now the map I'm using does not have a way to mark monster camp locations. That's a shame. That's actually a piece of information I wouldn't have minded having access to when looking at the underground. Alright, I think I've now marked up all... Yeah, I've gone back and marked up all the locations where those could find, and that's had an impact on territories, which is cool. The Yiga just took a significant blow. Yeah, but I think the Yiga got a big old fortress right here. Although I should note, that's another boss fight arena platform. So that's going to expand Wilds out even more. And that's going to be part of this wild zone. I don't like how far I made that dip out. Oops, wrong layer. Wrong shade of red. Alright. Hang on, let's go a little bit further down. There's nothing going on here, which is so weird to me. It's not even an area marked as a grove. There's no bosses there. It's just a big corner and nothing. I remember that being an annoyance when I played the base game. But there is a Yiga camp right here. And there are some mines, but we're not going to mark up any more of that stuff because... Or you know what? No, we might as well get the Zora territories out of the way while we're down here. You know, I marked all of this as being in control before I had decided on how I was doing the underground stuff. Ooh, I marked that Yiga camp as being on the wrong layer, huh? I go to the wild layer. We're gonna have a grove here. And I'm gonna make that grove expand all the way over to here. Just because I like the idea of it being a large zone of forest. And the forest here does look very dense. Alright, yeah, we're not going to push any further south there right now. Hang on. That's another area where I want to have the wild expand out. And with that, we're actually going to change how the Yigar move around over here. And that's going to be another, I think, good place where, like, a quest with the players having to go into the underground and fight the Yiga, this sets them up pretty good. It's like, oh, we can't push down from Akala Fortress due to their presence, but the Zora have gotten a thorough grasp of the area directly below them, and we can use, there's a tunnel to the north, so that's above a wild zone. From there, we could stage a two-pronged attack. We just need to make it over the wilderness. Ooh, yeah, I can see, the more I fill this out, the more I can see, like, the dynamics that will be at play in the long run of this, you know what I mean? And I love that. Ugh. Yeah, all the green areas are areas that have overgrown into lush underground jungles. The reds are areas, and like, where I've drawn paths, the Yiga have, like, put torches as path markers to help them navigate the dark underground. And everywhere that there's yellow is where some degree of highly encampment exists, which I do think I want to quickly... reach this up like that. And actually disconnect this hole. Yeah, there's a lot of spots where the only reason the Hylians have a foothold is because the Yiga can't have a foothold due to the wilderness, and I really like that. And the Yiga controlling every single labyrinth is the kind of thing that will lead to a very fun quest line, because they control them both in the lower and the upper, because it makes a natural fortress on the surface for them to try and push out through, you know? Like, hang on, let me bring up the upper layer. And in that vein... Ooh, hang on. Yeah, the Yiga have turned this into one of their fortresses, I've decided. So yeah, everywhere where there's a labyrinth, the Yiga are using those as major touchstones to stage attacks on Hyrule. And then there's a few areas like the, oh yeah, I gave them a secret base there that they've managed to establish just because I feel like it makes sense with what's going on with that stump. Yeah, a lot of the holes they're using as areas to climb up and out and try and stage attacks and cause problems. Yeah, I want them to have that as a camp. But a lot of their surface operations are sort of underground, secretive layers. The only, like, obvious, like, most of these areas I've marked down are areas where the Yiga are secretly operating, not publicly operating. You know, they're operating without people knowing they're there. It's actually the areas that are the labyrinths are the only actual, like, this is a Yiga fortress area where they are publicly known to be on the surface. That's the idea. Meanwhile, the Hylians, any yellow dot inside of a jungle underneath a chasm is like, treated as a sort of a semi-secret encampment, in that the Yiga know the Hylians are dipping down there, that they're coming from the surface down to them, but they can't really do anything about it, you know? I think with that, we've made a good chunk of progression with the underground. I really like how this looks. Oh. Look at that. And so... So, just stretching a little. Next time, what we're going to do is we're going to try and flesh out the underground sections for over here, and then move into the central Hyrule area. But yeah, it looks like a bulk of the mining operations of the Yiga are going on here, in this canyon, and up here a little bit. But, like, this one is just a supplementary one, it feels like. But, well, really, they're mining everywhere, I guess. But yeah, I really like how this is coming along. And, like, just the nature of how I'm making the overgrowth work is telling a story. And I like that. There's a story told just by how things are laid out. Sorry, just stretching a little. Oh, hang on. I do want to do one more thing. I realize we got to connect up these two Yiga encampments. They're not linked up with everyone else. So. Boom. I think I was debating doing is everywhere there's a sky ascension platform, like there's one right here, putting a Yiga camp at those, but I don't think I want to do that. Sorry, I'm just thinking something. I'm looking at the maps and thinking of how I want them to, yeah. And then this connects up with everything else via... You know what? Yeah, hang on. I want to expand this part of the fortress out a little bit. And I think the Yiga have actually... Hang on. They've got a very, like, not super good supply path here. So, like, these are going to be some of their weaker encampments, I think, because they struggled to connect to the others due to all the wilderness. And I think the Yiga have actually carved out an additional tunnel right here to help them navigate. No, you know what? I don't think they've done that. No, I feel like it would make sense for them to have dug that tunnel. All right. Look at that. Oh, and I also did not connect these guys up with everyone else. Whoops. Which, of course, is going to be connected via a wall-hugging road once again. I think each region will have, like, a Yiga capital. So, like, Yiga capital is this mine, with them also having a big work camp here and a fortress where the maze is. And this is also a fortress where that and this are. Like, this down here is the capital of the Yiga. And the area where the big hole is, here. Yeah. They desperately want that hole back under their control because they view it as the place they entered the underground in. For this region in the north, the Hebra area, this is actually treated as the Hebra capital, with this being the Hebra work camp. And then up in the Death Mountain region, this lake is the Death Mountain region capital, with the area down here being the work camp, and them have a fortress here and a fortress here. Yeah, and there's a little disconnected Yiga encampment over here, which I like. So I feel like this area is an area where the Yiga have some of their weakest amounts of support. Like, these Yiga encampments around where I'm waving are the weaker Yiga camps. But the further you get towards their major cities, then, like, up here they definitely have a weaker grasp on things just because of the fact that they have to cross this canyon. And like I said, like, hang on, I'm gonna quickly create a new layer. Biomes. So this is a layer I'll turn on and off at times, because I want the underground to have environmental biomes like the surface did. I think everything around here is going to be an ice biome. Like, these caves are going to be icy and snowy and have, like, full furry dinosaurs in them. And it's like, the explanation is straight up gonna be, like, you'll find some sort of magical entity here in the underground making this area cold. That is, like, I'm thinking it's gonna be basically like a dragon. Like, the ice dragon, say, or this, so, that's the thing I think I want to elaborate on. The dragons are sages. If you, spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom, if you swallow a sage stone, you become a dragon. So I think I might want to actually add a couple extra discoverable dragons in my narrative. And up here in the underground here, there will be the Ice Sage's dragon flying around for the players to meet. And over here, I think it's going to be, you know, hot, like on the surface, like deserty dry, with the explanation being the beating down sunlight of the surface is creating, like, a kiln. So this whole area, you need to wear, you know, the desert-style heat resistance clothing to stay warm. Or to stay cool, I mean. So this has all been turned in, is, like, baked into being, like, a kiln. I don't think there's gonna be any biome effects in these areas, though. These caves are going to be wet caves. And wet caves you can't climb in unless you have special climbing equipment. Hang on. Just quickly. How far do I want the wet caves to go is what I'm trying to figure out here. Yeah, so all of this region will be treated as wet caves. And in the wet caves, electrical weaponry will have an increased effectivity. Ah, shoot. So that's all wet caves. As is this area, but this isn't going to be wet caves, actually. This is going to be the charged caves. And what the charged caves are is there's going to be this natural, like, electrical storm going on in the charged caves region. As well as the wetness effect. Ooh, actually, I don't want to use yellow. Or hang on, I'll use a very pale yellow. So yeah, these are the charged caves biome in the underground. So we got the baked caves, the charged caves, the icy caves, the wet caves, and of course the area around Death Mountain is gonna be the lava caves, you know, uh, where just being in the excuse me, being in the area will burn you. But there's also gonna be lava caves here, here, and here. Yeah, boom, lava caves. Sorry, I keep coughing. And everywhere else is going to be treated as like neutral caves without any kind of crazy elemental effect happening to them. But I like the idea of doing this because it makes the underground to an even higher degree reflect the surface. And like there are exceptions, like this is going to be a unique forest compared to all the other underground forests. Like I think I want to have this one be bioluminescent once you make it friendly. I also think I definitely want to put a Goma boss in underneath the forest. You're good, Doodle. Yeah, look at that. I like the idea of that creating these biomed regions. In the underground. Yeah, so underneath the desert, the hot sunlight hitting the desert is beginning to bake the caves and make them super hot and glassy. Underneath the icy region, there's going to be an ice spirit there, making the whole area cold. Underneath the other area, I'm thinking actually I might literally make it that the 3 dragons we've been dealing with in the previous games have fully retreated underground. I think that would be cool. And so they're creating the fire effect, or the... Oh, and you know what? I think I'm going to make the fire region be expanded because of that, maybe. Do I want to do that? That might be a fun idea. Like, even more of it. No, I'm not going to do that. I've changed my mind. I was going to expand it and say, like, oh, Din's dragon is living there and has made all expand out more. These are all just ideas I'm playing with. But yeah, I think... With that done now, with us having added the biomes to the underground, which I think was a very fun idea, I think that's going to be it for this episode of Tears of the Kingdom 100 years later. I'm very happy with how this looks. And let's also just... Up. 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 Oops. A thing which I am debating doing is, hang on. Creating my own entire underground expansion, to reflect this new area of the map. With the explanation being that the Yiga and all of their digging will have knocked a hole down and discovered a whole new underground, like, chunk of underground. And they're just like, oh, what secrets could this new underground area hold? And some of the new monsters we are seeing in the underground are actually the direct result of them doing that and these creatures spilling out into the world. But yeah, I think I'm really happy with this. So I hope everybody has enjoyed this episode of Tears of the Kingdom 100 years later. Remember, this is a tri-weekly series, so we'll take 2 weeks off from this, and then we'll be back with it on YouTube. Leave your comments down below of thoughts and opinions. I would really like this to become a group project in the Zelda community. I would love to hear people's feedback and thoughts and ways that I could improve it or expand it even more. Any ideas you have. End cards will be appearing in just a moment. Love you very, very, very much, and ta-ta for now.